Hi, I'm Sonia, and I'll be discussing with you the Wilcoxon Tests. The Wilcoxon Tests are non-parametric tests that are used to compare distributions. The Wilcoxon Rank Sum Test is used for independent samples, and the Wilcoxon Sign Rank Test is used for dependent samples. They do not require the condition of normality. These tests are equivalent to the parametric tests Z and T for independent samples and the t-test for dependent samples. In the Wilcoxon test, the values of the data for both samples are combined and then ranked. When the values in each sample are summed and they are approximately the same, the null hypothesis is true. If there is a difference in the sums, the null hypothesis is greater than or equal to 10. Let's take a look. I have two independent samples of the SAT scores of juniors and seniors of a local high school. I will use the Wilcoxon Rank Sum Test to see if there's a difference in the scores of the students at the 0.05 level of significance. I will use the z-scores of positive 1.96 and negative 1.96. Null hypothesis is that there is no difference in the scores of juniors and seniors at the high school. The alternative hypothesis and claim is that there is a difference in the scores of juniors and seniors at the high school. I'm going to be using the data. We have the scores here listed, as well as the classification. And under the classification, we have the value 1 listed for senior and the value 2 listed for the juniors. Go to Analyze, down to Non-Parametric Tests, over to Legacy Dialogues, over once more and click on Two Independent Samples. Two independent samples. Okay. And now, as you can see here, our two independent samples will be our scores and classification. Our test variable list will be our scores, and we'll click on scores within classification. Our test variable list will be our scores, and we'll click on scores, which is already highlighted, and click here. And then classification will be our grouping variable. And as you can see, I have to go in and define the groups. And group 1 will be 1 for a senior and 2 for the juniors. Click continue, and I will go in under options and click on descriptive. I also would like the exact method, and then I'll click OK. And Man Whitney U is already the test type that is highlighted, that is already marked. Negative 0.418, negative 0.418, and it is, since it is a negative 0.418, which is greater than negative 1.96, we do not reject the null hypothesis, and therefore we can conclude that there is no difference between the junior and senior SAT scores. There is not enough evidence to support the hypothesis that there is a difference between the two scores, the two set of scores. So we will, once again, we do not reject the null hypothesis, and we conclude that there is no different value. The z value is negative 2.156. Negative 2.156. Now, our critical value was 8. So that's a huge difference. And it's definitely less than 8, a negative 2.15. Therefore, we can conclude that we can reject the null hypothesis in this case. In this case, we will reject the null hypothesis that there is no difference, because there is a difference, and there's a significant difference between the post-test and the pre-test data. And click on, this time, two related samples. Two related samples. Okay, and we have here the test pairs, which would be the pre-test, and we would click and it'll go over here, and we'll have the post-test, which will be variable 2. The Wilcoxon is already marked, is already checked for the test type. I'll go in statistics and I already have the descriptives. Continue. And then press OK. And if as you see here, we have the pre-test listed, the pre-test data listed, the pre-test scores, and then we also have the post-test scores listed. And what we're going to do now, we're going to go to Analyze, move down to Non-Parametric Tests, Legacy Dialog, and click on, this time, two related samples. Two related samples. Okay, and we have here the test pairs, which would be the pre-test and senior SAT scores. Now, let's look at the Wilcoxon sign rank test. When the samples are dependent, as they would be in a before and after test using the same subjects, the Wilcoxon signed rank test can be used in place of the t-test for dependent samples. Let's look at an example. A teacher was curious about the effectiveness of using arts integration in her classroom. She gave her students a pre-test on a specific topic in social studies. After implementing arts integration to her lesson,